Do you ever dream of seeing your script up on the big screen, but find yourself too stuck and demotivated to even start? What if there's a reason for that? Writing your screenplay every day is one of the hardest things to bring yourself to do. But if you don't start now, you're setting yourself up for failure in your screenwriting career. So in this video, I'll show you the secrets I learned that helped me push through these hard times, how they'll motivate you to write every single day, and the first thing you should do after watching this video. To start, you need to understand why you lack motivation in the first place. Otherwise, you'll never be able to sit down and write your screenplay without it feeling like you're trying to pull a 400-pound boulder or something. So many of us look at screenwriting like it's a pit of lava. Obviously, unless you're a masochist, you're probably not gonna wanna go near one of those. I mean, as soon as you step in, you're gonna suffer from third-degree burns. You're not an idiot. This is just like all the problems you face with screenwriting. Because of all this pain that you know is coming, you're gonna do everything you can to avoid the lava. Between a potential rejection and writer's block, why would you even wanna face it? Well, if you continue to perceive screenwriting as this painful process, you're never gonna face it head on. You need to see it as a soothing hot spring where you can just let your ideas flow. But how are you supposed to see it this way? What if I told you that these obstacles are actually the key to your success as a screenwriter? After this happened to me, I never let myself be discouraged again. When I finished my first screenplay, I was thrilled. I submitted it to a bunch of major contests. Sure, I'd win at least one of them. I mean, after all, my mom said she loved it, right? So I was pretty confident. One by one, the rejections came in. Each one hit me like a punch to the gut. Ow. My excitement turned into disappointment, and I just wanted to give up. For a while, I was convinced that all these contests were just telling me like, you're a bad writer, or this just isn't for you. But as I processed it, I realized something. Those rejections weren't insults, they were feedback. And all the feedback I received highlighted the same exact issue in all of my writing. As I kept writing and submitting, I started seeing these rejections as directions. But how is it supposed to motivate you? Well, instead of seeing every single obstacle as a complete failure, ask yourself, what did I learn from this? With each rejection or hardship that comes along, you're one step closer to the success you're working towards. Look at it as something you need in order to get better. You know, whether it's writer's block or harsh criticism on your work, you figure out what you did wrong so you don't do it again. It's just part of the process. But how do you actually make yourself motivated enough to write?
Life is pain. Get used to it.
We'll get into that in a minute, because what if you have writer's block and you just plain and simple can't start? Well, this is even worse for your motivation because it just makes you feel like you're not creative and you don't want to face that. So how are you supposed to beat this writer's block? Think of writer's block like it's a pen that stops working, all right? Because you're writing and writing until eventually you just run out of words and you try shaking it up or relentlessly jamming it against the page, but nothing comes. And eventually you throw it away and you give up. This is exactly how writer's block makes us feel. You know, we tell ourselves that we're out of ideas, like we tell ourselves the pen is out of ink, and we walk away at the first sign of difficulty.
Maybe I'm not good enough.
Yes, you are.
No, maybe I'm not.
How many times do you pick up the same pen later on just to see, oh, it does still have ink in it, that you just had to shake it up a little? Okay, that doesn't look like shaking. Just to get the juices flowing again. It's the same thing with writer's block. You can't give up right away just because you hit a creative wall. You need to have the patience to keep going. This extra effort and persistence is what so many writers lack, and it's the very thing that will set you apart. So if you really feel like you're completely out of ideas, how are you supposed to get anything out of yourself? Scribbling with the pen on the page until ink comes out, it's like writing random junk until it eventually becomes good. You know, you just write freely or jot down seemingly unrelated thoughts just to get something down on the page. So when you have writer's block, just write badly, like literally the first thing that comes to mind. And if you keep doing this, something will eventually spark. All of a sudden, your brain is gonna make this connection so that ideas just keep spilling out of you. But even though you've changed your mindset about the natural roadblocks in screenwriting, you still need to understand why writing consistently even matters. Because without doing that, motivation alone is not gonna get you through. So Why is consistency so important? Think of writing a screenplay like running a 5K. If you've never done it before, it's terrible the first time. But then once you run it, you realize it's not as bad as you thought. It was difficult, of course, but you survived, and now the next time you return to the track, you know what sort of obstacles to expect, and you'll be more prepared. And each time you finish, you'll do so quicker and with more efficiency. The same applies to screenwriting. The more amount of scripts you can finish, the less fear you feel when you sit down to write. If you're not writing every day, you're not getting enough experience. And without that, every screenplay you write might just feel like your first run. But the more times you can finish that task of getting to the end of your screenplay, the easier it will be to get through those obstacles without being afraid of them. So, how do you increase your ability to write more consistently? Stop worrying about writing good or trying to impress an agent. Just make your goal to finish the screenplay, to see it through to the end. You're not aiming for perfection or to run the fastest 5K. You're just trying to get to the end and write the words fade out. Think of it like you're just watching the narrative play out in your mind, and your only job is to translate that into words for the audience. How do you actually detach from this need for perfection? I mean, of course, we want our screenplays to be good, but if you can put that pressure aside for now, finishing your first draft will be so much easier, and it'll actually make it 10 times better. The way I started relieving this pressure myself was by remembering something I did when I was a kid. The first time I ever wrote a story, I think I was 6 years old, and it was titled The 6 Troublemakers. I tried looking for this, but I think to save the embarrassment, I hid it from the face of the earth. But I don't even remember what actually happened. All I remember was that I wrote 50 pages in a couple of days. Were they good? Probably not, but I didn't care. I wasn't striving to become a best-selling author or to impress anyone. I was just writing for fun. I was a kid. This is the mindset you need during your first draft. Think of it like you're a 6-year-old and you're completely unfiltered and uninhibited. Let's say there was a writer apocalypse and there were only 2 writers left. One of them was a 6-year-old who finished 10 screenplays, and the other was a 50-year-old screenwriting professor who's been agonizing over the same screenplay for the last 30 years. If the world needs a movie made tomorrow, who do you think they're more likely to go to? The one who actually finished, right? But how do you channel this childlike creativity? It's something I use called the Write Forever drill. And doing this instead will free you from self-criticism so you can just tap into raw, unfiltered creativity. Here's how it works. Write a sentence and then write whatever comes next, no matter how ridiculous it feels. Let's say your first sentence is, the man eats his sandwich, and then for whatever reason, the next thing that pops in your head is the man pukes up his sandwich. Don't stop to think about whether or not it makes sense. Just write it down and keep going. Keep this process up with every sentence you write, letting whatever pops into your head come onto the page. The goal isn't for this to make sense right away. It's just to get words down so that you can fix it later on. Embrace that inner 6-year-old and just keep writing without ever looking back. If you want more direct help on writing freely and channeling that stream of creativity, book a call with me by clicking the link down below. But what if you just simply don't feel like writing? You're not afraid of failure or rejection. You just plain and simple don't want to write right now. Well, then you don't want it bad enough. Lucky for you, there's an easy way to fix this. In the movie Whiplash, Andrew puts his blood, sweat, and tears into his drumming. Literally. There's not a single moment where he doesn't feel like playing the drums. As a matter of fact, he can't help himself. Now, is this because he's forcing himself to play the drums the whole time? No, it's because of this.
I'm here for a reason. Because I want to be great.
And you're not.
I want to be one of the greats.
His reason is so clear and personal to him that it doesn't even feel like a choice for him. Drumming is just a core part of his identity. That's what you need for your screenwriting. You need a reason that runs so deep, you don't have to think about it. It's just who you are. But how do you find this reason for yourself? You can start by asking yourself, why do I want to write screenplays? And don't just say because it's fun or because I want to make movies. Think about what screenwriting really means to you. Maybe like Andrew, you want to be one of the greats, or maybe you just want to see your name up on the big screen. Whatever the reason is, make it personal, make it vivid. Think of it as your why manifesto. Ask yourself questions like, what do I want my screenplays to accomplish? Or Who do I want to impact? And revisit this every single day. Make it a reminder of why you're driven to write even when it gets hard. But what if you just don't see yourself as a writer? Instead, you're thinking all the time about how like you're not cut out for this, or I'm a bad writer, which only makes it more difficult to stay motivated. If you can start to see yourself as a successful writer even before you finish your script, you'll never doubt your potential again. So how do you start seeing yourself as a successful writer if you're not a successful writer? The Secret Life of Walter Mitty offers such a great example. Walter is stuck in a boring job and he spends most of his days just fantasizing about all of these crazy adventures he wants to go on. But when he finally has a chance to go on one for real, he steps up without hesitation. Why? Because he's already pictured himself as this fearless adventurer countless times before. By imagining himself as capable, he was prepared when it finally mattered. The same goes for screenwriting. If you always see yourself as an unsuccessful writer, you're reinforcing that belief and you'll never feel prepared to deal with the obstacles of screenwriting. But if you can constantly visualize yourself as a screenwriter achieving your goals, you'll start to actually believe it, and this makes facing the challenges so much easier. So how do you visualize success like this? Here's an easy 3-step process to visualization. First, find a quiet, dark room where you won't be disturbed for like 15 to 20 minutes, and close your eyes and breathe deeply until your mind finally calms down. Next, think about things that make you feel grateful, your friends, your family, a recent achievement, and let those positive feelings build up inside of you. Finally, imagine your success as a screenwriter. Picture yourself accepting an Oscar or shaking hands with Martin Scorsese as he agrees to direct your script. Whatever you want, just feel the excitement like this thing is happening right now. And the important thing is that these scenes truly excite you. The stronger the emotional connection, the more powerful the visualization becomes. And by doing this regularly, you train your mind to believe in your success. And it won't be long before that belief becomes a reality. So now you've got all the motivation covered. You can sit down and write your screenplay every single day with no problem, only you're not sure where to start. So what's the first thing you should do when you're finally ready to write your screenplay? Find out by watching this video here.